Welcome to the On Target Living Podcast, a place where health and human performance meet.
Hey everybody, it's Steven, the creative director here at On Target Living, and we're having another Q&A episode. And we're going to go through some common questions we get here at On Target Living and, try to bring some clarity for you guys. So I'm here with Chris Johnson, CEO at On Target Living.
Hello, Steven.
What's up, Chris? Chris is glad to be here with me, I'm sure, because I'm going to grill him on some stuff, and we haven't really prepared in advance, so wish us luck. So my first question, Chris, how should we use the food target? And I think it's a good time to kind of talk about what it is and all that good stuff in case people don't know.
Well, this food target, I worked at this large health club, which is called the Michigan Athletic Club. I started there in 1990. I was a director of health and fitness there, and we had one of the largest personal training programs in the world. And it was a mega club, one of the largest hospital-based clubs in the world. We had close to 10,000 members, 275,000 square feet. So it was a big, big place. And everybody's trying to lose weight. So I started doing this seminar way back in the day called Meal Patterning. I was looking at the habits of sumo wrestlers and how they gained their weight. And I'd competed in bodybuilding since 1985, and I knew the way really, for me, the strategy was not, being just calorically depleted. It was learning how to improve the quality of the food you're eating. And so all the diets out there, and the circle keeps going. And so I thought, what if you could build a tool to help people, because obviously we had the food pyramid, which was
right.
kind of, there's a lot of reasons behind why they developed it, but it's confusing to people. Food is confusing. So that's how the target evolved. At the time, I had three circles. The center was green, and then I had more of a yellow, kind of a caution light, and then the red was the outside. And then I put carbs, proteins, and fats and allowed them to help them understand what is a carb, because most people really don't understand a carb. I'm going to cut carbs out, or carbs are sugars or whatever, but fruits and vegetables. And then the same thing with, back when I first got going, fats were the villain. Nobody wants to eat fats. Well,
right.
for nobody should be eating saturated fats, and now today everybody's talking about, coconut oil and things like that. So, and then protein, even today, I got to eat protein. So it was a tool I designed to help people incrementally make changes and educate them on how to, make better choices along the way. So that's how it evolved in 1994. And then slowly, people would ask me, well, is this good or bad or indifferent? And then we started talking about the source, because you can't put every nutrient inside the target, right?
Right.
So you just help them understand that, good carbs, good proteins, and good fats. And basically, if you get close to the source, most of them live in the center of the target. And if they're eating in the outside area of the target, then you're just like, hey, if I like coffee mate creamer in my coffee, I'm just going to get a better creamer. If I like Doritos, I get a better chip. So that's really that's kind of how I would teach people, and that's how we designed it over time. And then Kristen added condiments and beverages to help people bring a little bit more clarity to that. So that's how it all began. But it's forgiving. So we want to make sure everybody understands it's forgiving, and it's just a tool that we've used since the beginning to help people make better choices.
Yeah, it's kind of a graphic illustration of how people should eat and what they should eat.
And they can get that off the website if they want to. So if they don't, haven't seen it before, just go to our website, and under resources, it's one of the handouts.
So what are some of the biggest questions you get when people see the food target?
Well, I think the first response is so easy. So, hey, I can teach my my grade school kids. So I think that's the big one. And then they'll start looking. Every time we do a live event, we give it as a tool, and it's laminated, so it's a nice piece, and they can put it in the refrigerator, and there's exercises in the back. But you can see them in the audience just looking at, is this good or bad? So now they're kind of they're recognizing, like, is peanut butter bad? And then they're realizing, well, no, peanut butter's not bad. That peanut butter's bad. I just need to make it better. So that's what they start realizing, like, you mean that's good. So it really is an awareness tool that, maybe I shouldn't be doing that energy drink, or maybe I shouldn't be doing, whatever.
Yeah,
and it just allows them to create that awareness.
So one thing that's interesting is it's got some specific content, but also it's not like you should eat this brand or you should eat that brand because this brand is better than that brand. It's more of a broad awareness of a type. And then so what it does require is for people to have a little bit of common sense to kind of figure it out and navigate their own diet, right?
Yeah, so when I first started looking, I okay, so in the carbs, for example, I put fruits and vegetables and ancient grains and starchy carbs like potatoes, and they're like, potatoes are good? I'm like, yeah, it's the source. So it would create that awareness. I mean, you can eat a banana. Yeah, a banana is really, really healthy for you. So I think that's what was missing for a lot of people. They had that preconceived thought that for certain foods, and most people think peanut butter is, super healthy for you. It can be, but there's a lot of peanut butters that are very processed and trans fats, and I have a peanut butter that's been with me for 22 years, so that's not the peanut butter we're talking about. So it really does instantly create some awareness that anybody pretty much can understand. And that's why I designed it, to create some clarity on what a carb, protein, and fat was, and how do you upgrade them.
So is the food target is primarily based on the source concept and pH and what else, right?
It's just based on the source. And again, as foods get closer to the source, everything takes over. It's good for my cells. It's good for my pH. It's going to be good for my, close to the source. So that's really the three principles. At the time, I didn't design it that way, but instinctively, I knew when I was getting ready to compete in bodybuilding, the way I would get leaner is that I would just eat foods that had one or two ingredients. And if it had more than one or two ingredients, I wasn't eating it. And I did that for 3 months, and it was an easy plan it was simple to follow, but it wasn't easy to implement. So that's what people always ask me, hey, when you get ready for a bodybuilding show, how do you get leaner and how do you get cut and whatever? I'm like, I just eat foods close to the source, one or two ingredients, and I'd try to eat in balance. I didn't cut, nothing was off limits. So when I'd get ready for a contest, I was eating oatmeal and raisins and bananas, and people were like, really? Like, yeah. I wasn't eating too much of it, but I was eating those foods because I realized that you want to have that in balance. And I felt great. What I did on stage was kind of what I follow in my lifestyle. I just basically notched it up. There was no 80-20 rule getting ready to compete. It's basically 100-0 is all. Yeah, but that's short term.
Yeah, because that doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't. It's a short term get ready. It's a great process to follow. It's a great journey, but it's not something you can sustain over time without having some liberties here and there.
Yeah, there's no toaster strudels when you're getting ready for
none of that. And and you're not overeating either. So it's all that. So
yeah, just very controlled or very particular.
Yep.
That's great. So here's another question we get often. When you say these are from the source, they're single ingredient foods. I think sometimes people take that as, well, I can't have that pasta because there's sauce, there's pasta, and there's salt and pepper or whatever. Like, so I can't eat that. I can only eat the apple. Can you talk to that?
Well, the goal is whatever you're eating, you try to get it closer to the source. So if you like salt, well, most salt is processed sodium chlorohydrate, which is very unhealthy for you. But all salt is sea salt before they process it back to the source. So if it's Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt, that's what I'm talking about. So you're not giving up salt, you're just getting closer to the salt source. It's in everything. Like if you have an apple, then you have apple sauce, and then you have apple juice, and as Will Ferrell says, Apple Jacks, and the list goes on. So that's the thought. So I don't have to eat perfect. If you looked at this Garden of Eden tortilla chips, it's not the source, but it's closer because it only has 3 ingredients versus a Dorito has close to 70 ingredients.
Right.
So that's just the thought. I have a crummy Pop-Tart, and then I have a healthier Pop-Tart. So it's not the source, but it's better, whether it's pasta or whatever. So I think that's what we have to keep thinking is, whatever you like, how do you make it better? Oatmeal only has one ingredient. That's it. Versus maple and brown sugar oatmeal that's processed, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think one thing is that it gets a little confusing to some people. So I think some clarity would be, hey, if you mix oatmeal and banana and apple, that's 3 ingredients, but those are all 1 ingredient foods.
Correct. They're all source.
You can mix them up.
Oh yeah.
It's not, when we say 1 ingredient food, it's not like, okay, after you never.
Well, you would never have a recipe. So
yes, you can cook your favorite recipes, but use instead of.
Yeah, you're just trying to make it where nature. That's how it is, and that's why when you look at some of these things we have on this table, these are all source 1 ingredient foods. And then you have a mixture, and then you have multiple ingredients. Yeah. Like butter. It's so simple. I can't believe it's butter. So I always tell my audiences that they think this is funny, but it's not butter. If you like butter, you eat butter. And if you want to, so that's an easy thing to think about in making your food better. So when you hear somebody talk about, I can't eat tomatoes anymore, I can't eat nightshades or whatever, most people are not overdoing it. You're getting closer to the source. You really can't go wrong. Nothing's really off limits, which makes it interesting and fun for people. And I can have that. Yeah. Is it close to the source? Sure. Then you're good.
Yeah. Can you tell that story? I love this story about the lady that said, I can't believe you eat bananas.
Yeah. Years ago, I'm in the grocery store and minding my own business, walking down the aisle, and in our community here, I've been in this business my whole life, and I'm known as that, fitness nutrition guy. So this woman comes up to me, I got bananas in my cart, and she says, hey, you're that nutrition fitness guy. I have no idea where this is going. And she said, do you eat bananas? And I said, yeah, I got bananas in my cart. She said, don't you know they're high in the glycemic index? Glycemic index rates how fast a food gets in the body. Bananas are high in the glycemic index, I said, yeah, I know how. I've written books, and I have it in my book about glycemic index. She said, I'm just surprised you eat bananas, and walked away. I'm like, I just got scolded for having bananas in my cart. So I chased after a couple aisles later, and I said, excuse me, since when does a banana become an unhealthy food? She said, go into the whole thing. Her belief was that bananas made you fat. Bananas are not causing an epidemic of obesity in the United States today, but that was her mindset. You can't have bananas, or you can't eat raisins, or you can't eat oatmeal because these things make people fat. This is not causing an obesity epidemic in the United States, is eating too many bananas. But people have that belief even today. With a keto diet, more and more people are cutting carbs completely out of their diet, and the detriment of that is healthy brain and a healthy gut. So we need these foods, as we talked in the last podcast, food is medicine, and the power of that. So again, she didn't like the idea of, I had bananas, and I don't know about you, but I love the taste of bananas. They're easy, they're portable, high in potassium, and really a nice prebiotic for the gut.
So I'll tell you my story about grocery shopping. I won't name names, but I went to one that's supposedly very healthy. And I was all excited because they had a huge selection of dried fruit. And I was like, this is going to be great. I love fruit, but sometimes, it's nice to have that for trail mix or whatever. So I go in there and I pick up a bag of dried mangoes. I was so excited. And then on the way home, I was going to snack on some, and I opened them up, and they were coated in what I would imagine is probably corn syrup. They had a sticky coating, so they're so sweet and whatever. So I look at the back, and there's tons of ingredients, and I was so disappointed because I just wanted the mango. The mango is so good by itself, but they had to add all that to it. They had to process it.
Well, and again, sometimes when you look at dried fruit, raisins is an exception, but they add things to them because they preserves them. We sell mangoes on our website. You don't need to add any sweetness to a mango. It's naturally sweet, and then again, it's a preservative they use, whether it's a syrup or a sugar or a combination of the two. But yeah, it's very disappointing. I bought, dried cherries before where I'm almost positive they haven't added anything to them, and then I find out they've added some type of syrup to it to preserve it, and it's very, you don't need to add anything to it to to make it taste amazing.
Yeah, you have to go closer to the source, right?
Right.
And
That's the
less
whole
processing. Like, I can attest to this because I asked Mark in the warehouse about this, why they would do that. And apparently our mangoes, they're so good, but the shelf life is pretty short, because if you go, like, let's say if they were sitting down there for 2 years, they wouldn't be any good. So there's added care that has to go into making sure.
Yeah, I mean, why did high fructose corn syrup, or, any of these, soybean oil or corn oil or whatever, but part of that is sugar is a natural preservative. And so the more they can add, I mean, trans fats, people know about trans fats, natural, you couldn't put bread on a grocery shelf because it would mold relatively fast. So if it doesn't rot, probably not a good thing to put in your body. And so mangoes, whatever it might be, they all age quickly. And that's why mangoes get super, hard and like a bootstrap. And that's why, when we bring them in fresh, and they're pretty much, they're consumed relatively fast.
Yeah, they've got to go out the door quick, or else.
So if you have an apple and the apple's not rotting, or you have bread and the bread's not rotting, we know about, certain fast food buns that don't rot. That means there's things in them that are now allowing them to rot, which is, if it doesn't rot, you probably shouldn't put it in your body.
Right. Processed food in general is really interesting to me. And here's one that I saw in the news recently. People are now getting into raw water. Have you heard of raw water?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's the unprocessed form of water. So can you talk to me about water, what you should be looking for, what you should worry about?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. It's turned into water. It used to be water. And I remember when I was working at Frito-Lay, they were selling bottled water in the grocery stores. And I thought, God, that's the stupidest thing ever. Who's going to pay for water in a bottle? You can get water, through your tap. So water's not water anymore. We started putting more things in our water. So again, wherever you are in the world, you want to get if you use a tap, you want to get it tested, whether it's a well water or city water, whatever, just to see what's in your water. That's step one. I have a well where I'm at, and it has lots of minerals, but also can have, toxic things in it too. So we have a water ionizer. It has a filtration system. So that's what we use for drinking water at my house. And then if I'm traveling, I'm going to buy spring water, artesian water, or mineral water. So I don't really buy much water, but if I am traveling, I will buy those. And then mineral water is something I consume on a regular basis, like a Pellegrino or Pedoid, or there's lots of options out there. But we're getting more like, alkaline water. You get into purified water. I mean, purified water is going to be more where they take minerals out of the water, which is something I don't recommend on a regular basis. So if you're buying water, buy artesian, spring water, or mineral water. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the water ionizer because it's a filter and it also ionizes the water, which makes it more alkaline naturally, which doesn't cost anything. So lots on water. If you go in the grocery store today, it's 100 feet of different options of water. And it really gets back to, what type of water, but it's artesian, spring, and mineral. Those are your three best choices if you're buying water.
Yeah. An observation I made is most people don't drink enough, but they're getting hung up on which type.
Well, it's like anything else. I think we need to really focus on quality, and then we start making sure we're drinking enough water, because like you said, most people are not drinking enough water. 95% of people coming in the emergency rooms today are dehydrated. That's why they're coming there. So whether they have digestive issues or headaches or trauma or whatever it is, most people are dehydrated. So I always take the challenge for almost everybody. Set a water pitcher. My mom did this before she passed away. My mom stayed with us for about 2 or 3 months before, her last 6 months of her life, and she kept going in the emergency room. And if you take anybody to the emergency room, unfortunately, it's going to be a long process. We're in there 9, 10, and 11 hours. It's crazy, and they do the same thing over and over and over. And that's the protocol. They have to.
Right.
But every time my mom went into the emergency room, it was dehydration. So when she came and lived with us, I said, Mom, here's the deal. She weighed like 100 pounds. I filled up a pitcher of 50 ounces. I said, I want you to drink. I drink plenty of water. She was carrying it around, but she wasn't drinking it. So 2 days in a row, I think she drank about 20 ounces of water each day. And she thought she was drinking, 50, 60 ounces. So it's an awareness tool. It's a big deal. But water, if you're not drinking enough water, that would be step number one with nutrition. And that's really, for most people, are not drinking enough water. And then from there, we really work on the quality of the water they're consuming, which is a big deal. I mean, we obviously experienced that here in Michigan with the Flint water problems. Contaminated water is a big deal. So really think about getting your water tested. And then number two is, improving the quality of the water and then making sure you're getting enough water.
Right. Cool. So let's dive into this. So this is kind of related to hydration, and you talk about this a lot, but water with lemon, water with lime, it's great for your digestion, all that good stuff. But I think a lot of people, they don't understand why drinking a lemon in your water is makes you more alkaline, because lemon, as we all know, is acidic, right? That's the thought.
Yeah, so certain people, one of the things we have to understand is food by digestion creates alkalinity or acidity. So just because a food is acidic does not, by nature, you squirt it, it's very, squirt it in your eye, but by digestion it's very alkalizing. So there's certain foods have more alkalizing benefits. The most alkalizing of all fruits in general are very alkalizing for the body. So as listeners out there, just remember fruits, if you take fruits out of the body, you're losing that alkalinity. And fruits are also natural detoxifiers. So I'm not saying you need to eat a ton of fruit every day, but you need to be eating fruit every day. So I'm eating dark frozen cherries. I had them in my oatmeal this morning. I'm always eating, I always talk about apples, and then berries and mangoes and things like that. I love raisins, and so fruits have so many. But one of the benefits of fruits is they're alkalizing, and they're also naturally detoxifying. And so when you put things in your water, it's an easy thing. I have lemons in my water this morning. So at the beginning of each week, I take 2 lemons and I cut them up and put them in a glass container. Because it's easy. Now it's easy for me. Right. I also take oranges because I love the taste of oranges. And now with COVID and vitamin C is such a big deal. So I take 2 oranges and cut those up. So I have 2 separate containers and I put them in my water. These are easy things people can do to improve their gut health and their immune system and so forth. And then if people are having problems with acid reflux or gout, to even take it up a notch. And now we're bringing in ginger. So ginger is very good for the gut. We're here from Michigan, where Werner's capital of the world. I remember when I used to get sick as a kid, my mom used to give me ginger ale. And so the benefit of ginger in hot water, a little lemon or maybe a little bit of local honey or maple syrup is a great cocktail in the evening. So all these things are really beneficial for improving your gut health. And they're so simple and they don't cost anything.
Yeah. Do you remember when, so earlier this year when they kind of were announcing COVID-19 and, this and that, and there's going to be people getting sick. And then you went in and there's all these shortages in the stores, right? Werner's was nowhere to be found. It was selling so fast. And that kind of made me crack up because is this pop? It's delicious. Was that going to really boost your immune system and help you out as much as you think?
No, it kind of soothes the stomach, but no, it's again back to these basic things. But you can make a nice cocktail. Like we have a hot water heater right here. Just get some hot water. You can buy ginger frozen, or you can just shred the ginger, put it in a container and throw it in there, and then you could put some apple cider vinegar or lemon, or maybe even a little maple syrup or local honey. Now I'm getting it to taste the way I want to, and it's not ginger ale, but it's really good for your gut health.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, we talk about the source all the time, but I think that's a perfect example of, if you drink a little warm ginger water and with some lemon, it's great. There's no downside to it. If you drink the same amount of ginger ale, you've got the sugar, you've got everything else in it. And it's like your benefit, you're looking for that benefit, but you have all of the drawbacks because it's processed.
Yeah, and again, if you want some ginger ale occasionally or some root beer or whatever it might be, that's great. But these are some really easy things to improve your gut health, and especially with COVID. everybody's trying to really focus on their immune system, and it all begins in the gut. And these are some easy things to do.
Yeah. So instead of trying to drink ginger ale for health benefits, drink it to enjoy it.
It's sold out, right?
Yeah. I love ginger ale. With COVID and everything happening, there's lots of worry and uncertainty. Can you talk about diaphragmatic breathing? We've touched on this before, but what does that do? How does that help?
Well, I think right now there's so much anxiety out there, mental health. We know suicide is drastically gone way up. But I think a couple things that I would recommend is number one is, how do you create a little more stillness in your day, in your life? And how do you quiet the mind? Because it's hard to do. So one of the things for me personally that I do myself and also teach is, one of the fastest ways to quiet my mind and create stillness is focusing on my breath. And when I focus on my breath, it relaxes the nervous system and allows my gut health and everything, and so rest and digest. So breathing is a big deal, and really we need to breathe through the nose. We've talked a lot about this. We need to slow it down, and we need to use the diaphragm. And when people do that, it creates stillness. And part of the way to get back into the moment versus anxiety is the fear of the future, and depression's more thinking about the past. I think when people get in the moment, which is hard to do, that's kind of where the magic lives, and it's hard to do that. And what a benefit of breathing is that, and then you can go to the next level, you get into meditation and things like that, but it really begins with the breath. And most people have heard about it, they think about it maybe a little bit, but they don't practice it. So it's a practice. And it's something I'm trying to get better at all the time, is my breathing.
Yeah. So I know, you're not necessarily like a psychiatrist or anything like that, but can you kind of, when you're in the middle, when you're between being anxious and depressed, like what are the benefits, like career-wise, life-wise, when you figure that out? What's going on there?
Well, I think for me personally is, I think everybody, me included, you have days where things just aren't going right, or you're in a sad mood, or so step one is kind of embracing where you're at and what's happening. And so self-awareness is huge. And then from there you're saying, okay, what practices do I have to keep me, and like you said earlier in a podcast, you're talking about reframing. Could I reframe this question? Like when we got back from middle of March, I came back from an event, and we lost 17 speaking events over a 4-day period. And this is what we do for a living. And so I get home, and Paul and I were talking, and she said, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. This is what we do for a living. So initially I kind of went into that fear mode. I went into maybe overestimating the threat. And I think that's what we're doing right now with COVID is, I think a lot of people are overestimating, whether it's the election or the stock market or my career or whatever. And if we stay more in the moment, I think that's kind of where it's hard to do, but that's really where people start feeling better, and gratitude's such a huge emotion. Like you get up in the morning and what are you grateful for? So, but I think some real simple practices that I do for me daily to keep my emotions is gratitude's a big one. How I breathe. I'm a big fan of moving my body every day, because movement, I kind of get lost. It kind of cleans my mind, makes me feel good. And then how we eat and sleeping. And so the basics really are a big deal for mental health. And I think as a society, we need to go back and really keep reinforcing the basics for mental health, because as you mentioned before, the mind and body are completely connected. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter in the body that, and it's 90% is produced in the gut, that makes us happy. So if you looked at some of the depression medications, they're serotonin uptaking drugs that keep serotonin in the brain longer. Well, what if you're not producing enough serotonin?
Right.
That's a problem. So that all begins with getting that gut healthy. And if I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm probably not going to have good gut health. So this is a big can of worms, but it really gets back to the human body and understanding the mind and body connection.
Yeah. Can you talk more about exercising for your mind? I know historically, when I thought of exercise, it's like, okay, the only reason why I need exercise is to lose weight or to get stronger. There's nothing outside of that, right? Those are the two reasons why you would exercise.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right there. As most people, when we used to be at the Michigan Athletic Club, we used to have time limits for the cardio machines, 30 minutes. Well, why are they on there for 30 minutes? Because they're on there to lose weight. If you looked at all the advertisements on TV, whether it's the Mirror or the Peloton or what are they really trying to do? Maybe they're trying to get more fit. Maybe they're trying to lose weight or get leaner. All of the above could be great. But really the most powerful thing that movement does is what it does for your mind.
Right.
And so one of the things I always have is self-talk, is I don't feel like it today. My energy's not good. I just know if I can get on my mini trampoline for a few minutes here and there, I start doing some dynamic warm-up and stretches. I'd maybe do a few push-ups or whatever I'm doing, restorative movements. When I get done, I know what it's going to do for my mind. I'm going to be more relaxed. My brain is going to be clear. My thoughts and my worries that I maybe had earlier have kind of disappeared. So really, I always tell people one of the greatest benefits of moving your body every day is what it washes the brain. I don't look at it as only I'm going to get leaner or stronger. Right. I look at what it's doing for my brain. And so now it's even more important for me to move my body daily to have the emotions and the feelings that I'm looking for. And I think when people start going into that, because nobody ever feels disappointed when they probably move their body. And then many people try to carve out workouts that they don't enjoy. That's maybe another challenge they have. So if you looked at our society, why are we not moving when we know it's the pill that would probably heal a lot of people, because we don't make it enjoyable and fun and the things that we need to do. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't move their body, but the number one benefit of moving your body, in my opinion, is what it does for your mind.
Yeah. Some days on like a Sunday, I'll feel like just vegging out, and you're like, man, I don't even want to take the trash out today. That sounds like a hard thing to do. And you're like, it's like walking 15 feet. It's
like the rock at rest stays at rest. We've all done that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But we also need to think about movement can also be very, very restorative. And so a lot of the movements that we teach here is it doesn't need to be hard. It could be just getting on that foam roller and doing some simple stretching and things that feel good, but I'm still moving my body. The number one way that people lose weight is how they breathe.
Yeah.
So it's not like sweating, it's how we're breathing. So even if you're doing a little bit of movement and having good breathing, it all rolls together. But that's the benefit, is what it does for your mind.
Can you talk about some ways to kind of incentivize yourself to work out? Like for me, if you said, hey, do you want to go for a walk in the woods? Like I'll enjoy that, but I get kind of bored after 15 minutes or so. But if you said, or if I was like, hey, my goal is to go take some photos at sunset or something, like I could walk for 3 hours and not even, it's like, that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. I have something to do. Like, what are some ways that people can be?
Well, you just hit it. What is interesting for you?
Right.
So if you like dancing, you'll probably be active. And the other thing too, I tell people, or we talk about this, is that, are you training for something? So if you like dancing, maybe you need to work on your flexibility or whatever to help you dance better. Or if you like golf, maybe you're working on your strength and flexibility to play better golf. So now there's some incentive to, when you're going walking in the woods, just walking in the woods with you and Megan, maybe you're deciding that, I'm going to take some photos today, time disappears.
Right.
That's what play's all about. We know right now as a society, we're not playing enough. It's interesting, the pickleball craze has gone crazy all over the country. Why? Because it's fun. I'm getting people to, if I looked at my phone every night, I'm getting texts that, hey, can you play tonight? Can you play tonight? Can you play tonight? Well, if it was, I'm going to go run for 3 miles or go lift weights in the gym, I don't get that same invitation.
You don't get people texting you, hey, that stair climber's looking good tonight.
Yeah, let's look at the stair climber. So I think that's really a critical point, is we need to move, but you need to find activities you love to do. And then some days you're going to be more into it than others. But I'm doing, like if I'm getting ready to go skiing, out west, I'm going to probably try to up my game to get ready to go skiing, so I'm enjoying that a little bit more. So it's a little bit more incentive. That's why I compete in bodybuilding over the years. It's something that really gets me to train for something along the way, which makes your movement a little bit more interesting and engaging.
What does someone do if they just don't, they don't feel like they have any interest in moving? There's nothing that really calls them. They've tried things. They've tried going to the gym. I think I remember having a gym membership and I felt guilty for not using it, and that was stressing me out. Like what's something that people can do to shift their perspective and change their mind about moving?
Yeah, and I think one of the things is you step back and really what do people want? Because if you don't move, you're not going to be able to move. So as time goes on, sometimes when you look in the future for some people, it's too far away. But if you're not moving, you're not going to move in the future. So I was looking like, let's talk a little bit about your future. What do you want it to look like? Let's go in time and what do you want it to look like? And then people are like, yeah, I'd like to be more flexible in movement. And would you like to be able to get out of bed? Or can you get off the floor easily? Or what happens over time, you start limiting what you can do. People are buying houses because they can't climb stairs anymore. Or activities they used to love to do, they don't do anymore. So when you get people, so now they're thinking about, it's like what we talked about before. Just because a food, you don't like the taste of it, doesn't mean I might not do it because I want the benefit of it. So first thing is looking at what do people really want. They want to move better, they want to feel better. And if you ask people, what do they want? They want to be happy. So we know motion creates positive emotion. So we got to get them into that, all these wonderful benefits. And then from there, help them understand, like, maybe you need to walk with a friend, or maybe you need certain ways to get you engaged. Meet me here, or let's play pickleball, or let's go for a walk and take some pictures. These things now, like, that keeps me more engaged. So people have to figure that out. Some people like working out by themselves. Some people like going to a gym. The reason they go to the gym is because it's social. So over the years, I think that's the biggest challenge for most people, is that as a society, we don't move. But I think most people, what you said earlier, is they focus on losing weight, or they're going to get stronger, or whatever it is, versus all the other things that are incredibly beneficial of moving the human body. And I think we lose that along the way. And I think once people get that back, like I get people coming in here and I'll say, hey, what's the number one benefit of you get from moving your body? And they're like, how do you feel after you're done moving your body? And every one of them says the same thing: I feel great. So need to put that in your brain, that if I just move my body for 10 or 15 minutes here and there, I'm going to create this emotion that's going to last probably a good part of my day and lead into more. And it's like a muscle. People say, I don't have the willpower. Well, it's a muscle you slowly build over time. And some people have more of that muscle and some have less. But I've worked with virtually everybody. They can build that muscle. They just have to build it slowly. And now they're doing it because of all the wonderful benefits. Right. And you got to make it easy.
Okay, so here's a question. Strength training is, I think, is one of those ideas or topics that a lot of times causes some maybe confusion or some reluctance from people. If you said, hey, strength training is great because of this and that, they think, well, I don't want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not trying to bulk up or curl 100 pounds. And so there's this picture, when we think of strength training, we have this idea, most of us, of, this is what it means. Can you help to reframe that? Maybe let's just start with a few benefits and then talk about strength training.
Well, I think that's a funny thing because it's so true. I remember one time I was at the Mac at the time, and I'm in the locker room, and one guy asked me, he said, how long have you been strength training? I said, well, it's interesting. When I was 11 years old, my parents bought me a 110-pound barbell set. So I've been lifting weights and the question out of this guy's mouth was, why aren't you bigger? I started laughing because, I've competed in bodybuilding 8 times. Like, why are you not bigger? and I've been trying to get big muscles since I was, a teen. Well, strength training, really, the benefits are incredible because it's the engine, the muscles. As we age, we lose muscles, and that's the engine of the body. Also, muscles move, bones. And so if you don't have muscle over time, you lose the mobility and flexibility and the engine to move. So, and then connective tissue, bones, all the wonderful things of strength training. But if you don't strength training, you slowly, the body slowly deteriorates. Starting at around age 35, it moves pretty fast. But if you do a little bit of strength training on a consistent basis, you can maintain that. So as we age, the thing that we won't lose that much muscle. I've lost a lot of muscle over the years from where I used to be, but I still can move my body. I still feel like I can do certain things. So I truly call it the strength training is the fountain of youth. Also, testosterone is one of the greatest predictors of how you're aging. And strength training is one of the primers for keeping your testosterone levels high for both men and women. So if you're not strength training, the bone health, the engine, the ability to move, all the things you want to do on top of hormones, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be just an air squat, or it could be a modified push-up or a standing row. That's where people get sideways. They think they need to spend all day in the gym, and they don't, but they need to do some form of strength training.
Yeah, so can you touch on that? Because, let's say I go into the gym and I can curl 45s, I can curl 50s, whatever. Like, is that strength training you're talking about? Or give me some examples of...
So strength training is any way to add adaptation to the body. And generally it could be a body weight resistance, or it could be bands or dumbbells or machines, kettlebells. There's anything that puts a load on the body. So for example, if I lifted a pencil, that's not enough load to make adaptation. If you have so great of a load that you can't move it, that's too much adaptation. So anywhere in the 25 to 30% on up is going to keep your muscles. And I think that's the thing people don't understand. You don't need to do a lot, you just need to do it consistently. But strength training is the fountain of youth, and it can be done in lots of different ways.
What's the best place to start if someone's never worked out in their entire life?
I teach everybody how to do a squat and a push-up. Because if you can do a squat and a push-up when you're 95 years old, you will look like you can do a squat and a push-up. And as we age, we need lower body strength and we need upper body strength. And so a push-up and a squat cover lots of ground, and there's no equipment required.
Yeah. So,
and you can perfect those movements. So again, we teach lots of different squats with no resistance, but it's great for your hips and your back and your mobility, flexibility. And then a push-up, it's great for the overall upper body, whether it's your shoulders and your arms and your chest, and then maybe you throw a back exercise in there. So usually for all my clients, I start out with anywhere between 2 and 4 strength training exercises that take maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
So strength training isn't something that's expensive you need a gym membership for necessarily?
You don't need, no. I mean, most of the exercises we teach right at the very beginning are no equipment required. When I travel and do conferences and so forth and trainings for companies, I go in there with no equipment, and we're doing everything with no equipment, and they're like, wow, we just did a 45-minute workout with no equipment, and I am just, you can take the intensity up. Anytime you handle your body weight, it's going to be always more intensity generally.
Yeah, like trying to do chin-ups. Like if people say you need equipment, like do some chin-ups, right?
Yeah, if you can give me 10 perfect push-ups and 5 perfect pull-ups, and maybe a lunge and a squat, you will look like you can do all those movements.
Yeah. Can you talk about what just because people will be listening to this, can you kind of describe a good place to start? Like if you have mobility issues or things like that, and let's say it's a push-up, how does someone start, and how does that increment go up?
Well, I think we have many of these videos on our website, but learning how to do some basic, even if you're a high level athlete or fitness person, doing it correctly to protect the space in the shoulder is scapular retraction. So when the scapula is retracted or pulled together, it creates more space in the shoulders. So when you teach a push-up, most people are doing a push-up incorrectly. They're doing it, but it's hurting their shoulders and they're not really working the muscles they want. They're doing all these planks, but understanding a push-up is a plank. So if you engage the core, engage the body the way it should be, now you're getting more efficiency and you're getting more bang for the buck. So now we're doing movements quality over quantity. Same thing when we talk about food. So strength training, really, that what we teach initially is, where their limitations are. And then when you strength training can create lots of synergy in the body, which creates more balance. That's the benefit, especially with athletics, is you're trying to create more synergy in the body. So again, start slowly, see where they're at, what they can do, where their limitations are, and then basically work around that. Everybody has limitations to a certain extent. And then try to teach them techniques that really help them with their injuries and things like that, so they don't get injured in the future.
Yeah, so like to start out, it could be modified, could be like against the wall, and then you could go on
you could do it against the wall, you could do it against an incline, maybe on a like we could do it right here on the island, or you can go to the floor and then you modify it there, and then you can go the other extreme where I'm doing maybe a handstand type push-up. So it can go one extreme to the other.
All without going to the gym.
Without going to the gym, especially during right now.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Chris. I think this is a good point to wrap up. We talked a lot about different topics and that kind of thing. I think this is super helpful and lots of great content. So thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, great hanging out with you.
Yeah. So again, thank you everyone for joining us for this Q&A. We're going to keep doing this and keep answering your questions. If you have any for us, shoot us an email. You can do Chris Johnson at On Target Living, info at On Target Living. So we've got lots of ways to get a hold of us, and we'll see you next time.